everyone, let's talk about procrastination. Hi, and welcome to my channel. I'm Zefora, and today we're going to talk about procrastination. Specifically, we're going to talk about how to stop procrastinating, to interrupt those habit loops, and start getting work done. Now, I am not teaching you this because I'm perfect and I have mastered procrastination and I never procrastinate. It's because of the opposite. It's because that I struggle with it. And because I struggle with it, I have been studying it and I have learned some things and I have been able to package that information to pass on to you because I have found what works. Okay, so there are a lot of resources out there that tell you what procrastination is and why we do it. And those are great resources and you should definitely go find those. Excuse me. And you should definitely go find those if that's what you're interested in learning. The point of today's video is to teach you the skill on how to stop procrastinating, to interrupt those habit loops, and then start getting work done. And I have found a method that works. Really sorry about this. I may have dust in here again. It's not the only way. There are probably other methods, and if you have something that works for you, please mention it below in the comments. We would like to learn from you as well. So this is what works for me. Before I go into what to do to stop procrastinating, I want to go through some other concepts because there are concepts that you have to understand and build upon before you can really get this trick to work. Holy crap. I think it's just dusty in here. I should have run my air filter. So first of all, what is procrastination? At its core, procrastination is a mismanagement of negative feelings. Okay, so if we have something that scares us or is overwhelming or seems like too big to handle, that causes us to feel icky and we have negative emotions about that. And instead of dealing with those emotions head on and properly, we avoid, right? So procrastination is avoidant behavior. And our brains say, oh, I don't like this, this is icky, let's go do something that's familiar, let's go do something fun and relaxing, something I like, let's get away from that, right? Because your brain wants to take care of you. So your brain wants to get you away from things that are negative or feel icky. And if your brain can't physically get you away from something negative or make the situation go away, it will just avoid. In worst cases, like with trauma, it will dissociate and it will just completely like make the world not real. So I suppose like in a way, procrastination is a little bit of a dissociation from our real lives and what we have to do. But in essence, it's avoiding discomfort. All right, so it's important to understand that moving forward because it's important to be mindful and recognize, oh, I'm avoiding this discomfort. I'm avoiding this thing that makes me feel afraid or overwhelmed or whatever. So your brain has habit loops. It likes to do what's familiar. It doesn't like to do what's unfamiliar. And whenever you're learning a new skill or trying to develop a new habit, your brain is going to avoid doing that because it doesn't like to do what's unfamiliar. And so you have to be intentional when you start to do new habits or learn new skills. So interrupting procrastination is a skill. It's a skill that you have to learn. It's a skill that I'm working on, and it takes time. So you have to be patient with yourself. So the first thing you have to do when interrupting procrastination is stop looking at the big picture. Okay, so let's say you're making an album or you're writing a novel or you're starting a new business or a small business. The best way to kill a big project is to tell people, I'm working on an album, I'm writing a novel, I'm starting a small business, because it's overwhelming. These projects are like big concepts. There's a lot of work that has to go into it. And if you're looking at all of that work at once, you're going to be like, I can't do that all on my own. Like, that's a whole lot of stuff to do, and I can't do that all at once right now. It gets overwhelming. And then you just kind of set it aside. You're like, oh, I can't work on that, right? So the worst professional advice I ever got as a musician was, when you're making an album, look at the end and focus on the end product and start thinking about the marketing now, right? Start thinking about your promotion, your marketing, how you're going to put it out there, distribution, all that stuff, because you want to have that all set up beforehand so that when you get there, you can just push it out. That sounds like really sound advice just at its surface. But the problem with that is that as soon as I started thinking that way, I completely shut down and I didn't work on an album. I would start it and then I'd be like, oh my God, I kept looking at the end product and thinking about the marketing and thinking about how I was going to get it out there. And I hadn't even written anything yet. And I was just like, whoa, that's just too much. I can't do that. And I just put it off. And so for 4 years, I didn't work on my album. Like, occasionally I'd pick it up and I'd do a little bit more, and then I'd just be like, no, too much, and I'd drop it again. So for the first thing you have to do is stop looking at the big picture. All right. You want to take this in small little increments. Okay. You don't climb a mountain by looking at the peak and teleporting yourself there. Okay. And if that's what you're trying to do with your career or a project or even just one task, you're going to sabotage yourself because that's too hard, right? You don't climb a mountain by looking at the peak and going, wow, it's so high and I'm just going to get myself there. You have to start putting one foot in front of the other. You have to start walking through the foothills. You have to take the path through the forest. You have to cross maybe a few streams. You got to climb some boulders. Maybe you even have to scale a cliff. Maybe there's more than one peak before you get to the very top, right? So, if you're just looking at the peak thinking, wow, that's so high, you're never going to start climbing the mountain. You have to look down and you have to just start saying, okay, I got to start walking, right? So that's what we're going to do today. The second thing you need to do is stop waiting for motivation. Motivation is garbage and inspiration rarely hits. And when it does, it doesn't stay. All right. It doesn't stick around. So if you're going to use motivation and inspiration to get things done, you're not going to get much done. You can't wait until you feel like it, because you're usually not going to feel like it. Motivation is great when it hits. Use it, surf that wave to get further. That's great. But don't wait for it, because it's never going to happen. I mean, how many times do we say, like, tomorrow's the day I'm going to start going to the gym and I'm going to get in shape, right? But then it doesn't happen. Or you go for a week and then you stop, right? I mean, I think New Year's resolutions is a great example of this, where people are like, I'm going to go to the gym and I'm going to get in shape, and they go for a month and the parking lot at the gym is like full for the whole entire month of January, and then it's like empty the rest of the year. So motivation is not a great way to get things done. The third thing you need to do is to stop waiting for someone else to tell you what to do. And this is one of the hardest things. No one's coming. No one is going to come pick you up off that shelf and push you forward and say, go do that thing, right? When we were kids, we had our parents to do that. We had our parents to tell us to clean the room or walk the dog or, empty the dishwasher or get our homework done. As adults, we have to parent ourselves. And most of us haven't learned how to do that. I certainly haven't learned how to do that. I'm trying to teach myself how to do that now. And it's kind of like a stunning realization when you're like, oh, I have to be my own parent and I have to tell myself what to do. And that could be overwhelming too. Like, I am all alone in this universe, but you're not all alone, but you do have to parent yourself. Okay. So that's, that's another really important foundation for this skill, is to understand that, yeah, you do have to tell yourself what to do. You do have to push yourself. You do have to make yourself do things you don't want to do, that you don't feel like doing, that are hard, that are icky, that are whatever. But it is worth it, okay? Now, there is a concept that I need to explain called the hierarchy of competence. Now, the hierarchy of competence has 4 stages to it, all right? The first stage is unconscious incompetence, all right? So when you're learning any skill or trying to develop any new habit, you start out in a state where you don't know what you don't know, and you're completely unaware that you suck at something, all right? You have no idea you're even doing it. So in the context of procrastination, you may be completely unaware that you're procrastinating, right? Like you're like, oh, I have to go record this song, but I have to go write part of my novel. I'm just going to check Facebook first, right? And then you're like, oh, hey, a YouTube link. And then you end up down a rabbit hole. And before you know it, you're like, oh crap, it's 5 p.m. What the hell happened? I'm watching videos on, tow truck drivers or something. I like GT Ogre, so I love tow videos. Anyway, but that is unconscious incompetence, where you don't even realize that you suck at something and that you're not doing it right. All right. Then once you push yourself up into trying to do something and you realize like, oh, I need to work on this, you get into conscious incompetence. Now, conscious incompetence is where you suck at something, but you're completely aware of it. All right. And you're actually actively trying to improve yourself, and you have to like really work on it. But you're aware when you're like, I have to go make a phone call about starting my small business. I have to go call the bank about something, but oh God, that's like overwhelming. I'm just going to open Facebook for a second. And you open it and then you're like, no, I really need to go do that thing. And then you do something else. You're like, oh, but I really do need to go. And the whole time you're aware that you're procrastinating, but you can't stop, right? That's conscious incompetence. And that is where we apply the skill we're going to learn today, okay? Now, once you apply yourself to stopping old habits, starting new habits, you get into eventually something called conscious competence, all right? So now you've been aware of it, you've been working on it. Now you're in conscious competence where you're getting good at it, but you still have to put in the mental effort every time. You still have to think about it every time, but you're actually starting to get good at it, all right? And we will naturally dip in between these levels as we're learning. So don't get to a certain level and then find yourself slipping backwards and thinking, I'm failing. It's actually a completely normal part of the process, that it's a bit of a roller coaster where, you may get up into conscious competence and you're like, yeah, and then you just crash and burn into unconscious incompetence and then you work your way back up, and it's kind of like hills that go higher and higher, like climbing a mountain, right? A mountain isn't perfectly straight. It's a bunch of hills. So then once you do that enough, the goal is to get to unconscious competence, where you're good at something and you just do it without thinking, and it's just part of your natural habit now. You've made a new habit, you have new skills, and you just do it and it just comes naturally. All right. Now, just because you get there doesn't mean you're not going to slip back down below for a while. That happens to everybody and is totally normal. So that's the goal, to be there most of the time, but you're never going to be there 100% of the time. All right. Okay. So here it is. What do you do to stop procrastinating? All right. It's very easy. All you have to do is focus on the smallest, tiniest step you can take to move forward. That's it. All right. If you just focus on the smallest step, stop thinking about the big picture, stop worrying about fear of rejection, stop worrying about how people are going to react to it once it's done, stop thinking about how much work has to go into it today. Just think about the first thing that you can do to get started. All right. So like for going to the gym, for me, that is put on my gym clothes. In fact, just put on my gym shorts, right? If I just get those shorts on my body, the next thing I know, I'm putting my shirt on, and then I'm getting a water bottle, and then I'm getting my music, and I'm putting on my shoes, and then all of a sudden I'm out the door, and I'm like, oh my God, all I did was put on my gym shorts, and now suddenly I'm on my way to the gym. I guess I better go. I don't think about what workout I'm gonna do, or how hard it's gonna be, or how long I'm gonna go, or how many days a week I need to do this, or anything. I just put on my freaking clothes. That's it. For recording, my first step is to plug in my mic. So every day I'm just like, all right, today I'm gonna plug in my microphone, and that's all I'm gonna do. And I just tell myself, that's all I'm gonna do. Can you plug in your microphone? Yes, I can. All right, let's go do that. And that's all I focus on. So I go make some tea, and I'm like, I'm gonna go plug in my mic. And then I go into the bedroom, go into the studio, turn on the light, get stuff going because I need to plug in my mic, and then I take out my microphone and plug it in. The next thing I know, I'm plugging in my headphones, I'm turning on the computer, I'm logging into the computer, I'm opening the software. Well, now the thing is open. Oh, hey, I guess I better work on this project. Well, where did I leave off? Oh yeah, I need to work on this part. And then I'm just focusing on the little steps, and then suddenly I'm working and I'm getting things done. It works. The thing that you have to remember is that a house isn't built all at once, all right? You don't climb a mountain by jumping to the peak. And you can use things called external triggers to remind yourself and have visual cues while you're learning. So one of those that I had for myself was, it's a bracelet. It's a washer bracelet. It's made by myintent.org. It's called a My Intent bracelet. I'm not really showing this. And they just stamp a word that you want on it. My word is one brick. And the concept is this. So I'm using the concept of Legos, and I didn't make this up myself. I actually got this from Mel Robbins, but I really, really loved it. So if you're building with Legos, and say you're building a house, you don't build the whole thing at once. You just do it one brick at a time, right? So my bracelet says one brick because I'm trying to train myself. What's my first brick? And that's all I focus on. If I want to build a Lego house, I just find my first brick, and then I find the next brick, and then I find the next brick. And I actually realized, oh, hey, we have a whole bin, a giant bin of Legos downstairs that my son used to play with, and he's not using them right now. So I'm gonna go get them and use them. So I took the whole bin upstairs. I dumped them all on the floor. There's like thousands of Legos. And I pulled out all of the individual pieces as well as some of like the creative pieces. And I started building to give myself a visual cue. So this was the one I started building for my exercise. So every time I exercise, I add a brick. And at first I was like, I want them to be all the same size because every brick is the same. Whether I go for a half hour or whether I just climbed the stairs or whether I just walked to the store, something, I'm just gonna put a brick here. But then I didn't have enough of all the same size, so I just decided to just like use random bricks. The size and color don't mean anything. A brick is a brick. But I just started building this, and I quit doing this a while ago because I now have that in my head, like I know what to do. But I also did one for creativity. So whenever I started working on my music, if I opened my DAW or I went into the studio or I even just networked with people in the industry, I would give myself a brick, but I made it creative, right? Because it's for the creative one. So I built this little scene, and I really love it. It's so cute, and I'm still working on it, but I haven't actually worked on it in a while because now I'm doing so many creative things that I can't really keep up with it. So it helped get me started, and now that the ball is rolling, I just kind of go with it. I don't really think about it anymore. Right, so that is the brick analogy, and you could say step, you could say brick, whatever works for you. I don't even wear the bracelet anymore because I've just got it in my head now. But for a while, every time I looked at my wrist, I'd be like, oh yeah, I need to just focus on the first step. I even use this when I go into the kitchen to clean the kitchen. I get so overwhelmed by like, oh my God, there's dishes and I've got to cook dinner, blah. I just go, okay, like what do I have to do first? Open the dishwasher. Okay, what's the next step? Pick up a dish. Okay, what's the next step? put it in the cupboard. And if I do that a few times, then I get started, and then I'm cleaning the kitchen, and then I'm cooking dinner, and blah, blah, blah. So yeah, it does work. The next thing that you need to do is schedule your work, right? Because just because we have time to do something doesn't mean that it will be magically filled with the things we need to do. We need to actually intentionally do them, right? So you can say, I'm going to start going to the gym. Great, but when, right? Tomorrow. Okay, but when? Are you going to go in the morning right after you wake up? Are you going to go in the middle of the day on your lunch break? Are you going to go in the evening? Are you going to go at night? How long are you going to go for? Where are you going to go? What are you going to do? Like, you need to plan it out. Because if you just hope that it happens, it's not going to happen, especially if you don't like going to the gym. It's not going to happen. Your brain's going to be like, I'm just going to avoid that and not think about it. And then you get to the end of the day, you're like, oh yeah, I was going to go to the gym today. I forgot. You have to schedule your work, okay? And you have to parent yourself when you don't feel like it. You just do. You have to go anyway. You have to do it anyway. You also need to give yourself deadlines. So there's something called Parkinson's Law. Parkinson's Law states that work will expand to fill the time allowed for its completion. Okay? So if you have a half hour to do a job, it's going to take you a half hour. If you have 2 weeks to do a job, it's going to take you 2 weeks. If you have no deadline and infinite time to get a job done, you're never going to finish it. So even when I get jobs where there's no deadline, which is what I'm dealing with now, I give myself personal deadlines. So I'll say like, okay, I'm going to finish writing this by Wednesday, and I'm going to finish recording it by Sunday. I don't always accomplish that, but I do try. Because at least it puts, I put the pressure on myself to be like, oh, I got to get this done by a certain day. And I do actually manage to get stuff done that way. But you know, sometimes life happens and you have to extend that deadline for yourself, but at least you're still getting stuff done. Now, extra things that can help. Mindfulness. Mindfulness is key. If you're not mindful of your state and your activities and what you're doing and what you're thinking, if you're not aware of your body, and what your brain is thinking and feeling and doing, you're not going to get to conscious incompetence. You're going to stay in that unconscious incompetence, and you're not going to be able to develop the new skill. So mindfulness is key, all right? And you can practice mindfulness in several ways. I mean, the most obvious is meditation. Being mindful of just your body, just at its like pure state and what it's doing and what it's feeling. Paying attention to thoughts. There's a meditation where you can just notice a thought and let it go, and notice a thought and let it go. And it helps you become more mindful of your body and your mind and what it's doing, thinking, feeling at any given moment. Because a lot of times we're just not aware. So mindfulness is key. There are tools to help you organize your day. One that I use is called the 5-second journal. And I'll put a link in the description below to a free sample page from that journal, but it just helps you sit down and like organize your day. So if I'm having a day where I'm just overwhelmed and I can't organize myself and I'm having trouble, I use this journal because it works you through all of these, it works you through all the steps of getting started. So, you know, it has a mindfulness section, just how are you feeling and why do you feel this way? And then, you know, like what's your biggest goal of the day? And then what's the first thing you can do to get started on that? And, you know, what are you grateful for? And it just has this whole section on the left side of just working yourself through the steps of mindfulness and practicing getting started. And then on the right side, it's all like, it's just a daily planner with hours, and then you can plan your day out. I put to-do lists there. A lot of times I will put achievement lists there. So what did I accomplish in the day? Because I have trouble recognizing that I'm getting stuff done. I have trouble recognizing that I'm actually working hard. So I may have a day where I'm just killing it, and I'm knocking all sorts of stuff off my to-do list. But at the same time, I'm thinking, God, I'm so lazy and I'm not getting anything done, and I never do anything. And if I can have that list to look at the end of the day, where I just have like 15, 20 things I got done, even if it's just like walked to the mailbox and got the mail, emptied the dishwasher, you know, did this thing for a client, drove to the store, I realized, oh my God, I did a ton of things today, like a ton. Sent an email, whatever. Yeah. And when you're thinking about like what's your first step, it could be as simple as open your software, open an email, type in the person's email address. Keep it as small as possible, because the smaller the task is, the easier it's going to be to do. Okay, so another thing you need to do, obviously you need to avoid distractions. Like, if I know I'm going to be procrastinating the next day, I will make one of my first steps in the morning to not turn on my computer, you know, where I have all my play stuff, all my games and all my distractions, because I really do need to get work done. That's hard to do, but that is something that, like, that's a step that I take to avoid procrastination. And another really important thing is stop trying to be a perfectionist. And this hangs me up every time. Done is better than perfect. Okay, I have made this video 4 times now. 4. I've got a new camera. I've got a whole outline. I'm trying to teach you something, and I want to be competent, and I want to come across as competent. And there were all these mistakes happening, like I didn't have the white balance set on the camera right, and everything would turn bright orange, and I would forget to turn my mic on, and you know, I would ramble, or maybe I thought it was too long, or like my necklace was backwards or something, right? Okay, done is better than perfect. So because I did that, I was so hung up on, I have to finish that video, I have to finish that video, that I wasn't making videos about other things that I was interested in. I did make some videos where I would just sit in front of the camera and talk, but they were kind of rambling. And then I felt like, oh, this is rambling. This doesn't really get to a point. I forgot to finish that story. I can't upload this. This is not a perfect video. This isn't like sound bite size that people are going to watch and listen to. So you have to get over that. And that is something that I work on a lot. So I have a couple of videos that I may upload that are just like not perfect at all, but they're videos. And I'm not sure if it's worth it to me to upload those, but they exist. I just chalk it up to practice at the best. But yeah, I found this great quote by George Patton. A good plan violently executed right now is far better than a perfect plan executed next week, right? So sometimes we've got short deadlines. We just got to push it out, and it's not going to be perfect. It's not even going to be close to what we consider good, but we push it out because we've got that deadline, and there it is. Take it or leave it. Like that's what I could do in that amount of time. So stop stopping yourself by telling yourself it's got to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so that's it for procrastination. If you want to stick around for my sources and my thoughts on those, keep playing. Otherwise, go forth and be fruitful and practice what you've learned here. And if you have any methods that work for you, please let us know in the comments. So yeah, anyway. Now, I am a firm believer in citing my sources. I didn't come up with any of this myself, okay? I'm repackaging information that I learned from others, and I'm passing it on to you. The primary source for this information was Mel Robbins. For a while I was studying her. So when I was studying psychology, studying recovering from PTSD and trauma and things like that, I got to a point where I had learned as much as I needed to in the moment. And I was starting to get tired of those videos of learning about personality disorders and psychology and PTSD. I had been studying it for like a year, and I finally had the stuff solid in my head, and I was just like, I'm not interested in watching those anymore. I want to move on. How do I move on? And so I started exploring that and went through a few like I hate motivational speakers, but I was looking for videos on like people who kind of could guide me to moving on. And what I ended up landing on for a while was Mel Robbins. If you are interested in anything I have talked about here, I highly recommend her Audible book, Take Control of Your Life. It's only on Audible because it's not a book, it's a bunch of live coaching sessions, but they're invaluable even if you don't have the same problem that the people that she coaches do. The advice that she gives them applies to a lot of other things. And I found a little bit of myself in every single session and was like, oh yeah, I do that with this other thing. Like, yeah, that's actually a really good point. I'm going to try to apply that to my life. So she has a lot of really good strategies for how to get over negative thinking, how to get over being self-critical, and how to actually like take action and move on, which is really great. It's very useful, practical information. She also has a free YouTube class, a course that's a month. Well, she did it for a month. It's not actually like every day is part of the course. There's a lot of Q&A and stuff, but it's called Mindset Reset. And it's on her YouTube channel. You can just search Mel Robbins Mindset Reset. I'll put a link in the description to the playlist, and it's really useful. It's really useful. And then, of course, she's the one who published the 5-second journal. So she came up with the 5-second rule. The 5-second rule is that if you think you need to do something, you have 5 seconds to take action before you talk yourself out of it, which has also been helpful. I don't use it all the time, but basically, if you think, for example, I was like, oh, I need to walk over and talk to that person. I counted down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I started walking forward and started talking to that person. In that situation, it turned out that the person was busy and I had to wait to talk to them. And the whole time I'm trying to talk myself out of it. No, she's busy. Just go. You can talk to her another time. Like it's, you know, it's like, oh, I'm just embarrassed and I don't really want to do this and I should just go home. But I was like, no, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I just kept like counting down in my head over and over again so that, I would stay and I would actually talk to her once she was free. And it turns out that it was a really good thing that I did that, and it came to something good. So yeah, I mean, she's written books like the 5-second rule and stuff. So, I mean, if you're interested, go for it. The issue I have with Mel Robbins, there's a couple things. So I don't actually watch her videos anymore. The first thing is that she is a paid speaker, and she doesn't make her money off of her YouTube channel, or, I mean, she makes money off of selling books, but she doesn't actually push them that hard. Like, she gave away the 5-second journal thing and the Mindset Reset course for free, because that's not how she makes her money. How she makes her money is doing motivational talks at conferences. And I noticed in her videos, she started talking about side hustles and talking about being your own boss and encouraging people who worked for companies like Young Living and Unique and all these MLMs. Rodan and Fields, all of these, and she would start listing them, and I'd be like, but those are MLMs, and they're not healthy for people to be working in, and they're basically cults, and that's not like good to encourage people to be that. But then I realized, oh, those are her clients, right? So she has really good advice, but at the same time, she targets her message for people who work in house flipping or insurance industry, where it's kind of also built like an MLM. So yeah, I mean, with any motivational speaker or whatever, and I'm going to talk about this in the next video, take what you can, take the information, take what's useful for you, but don't stay for the cult, right? Because she has like this massive rabid following. People are so eager to like cling to a personality and be like, oh my God, like notice me and validate me and look at me and tell me what to do, help me. That even her following, even though she's trying to help people be independent and self-sufficient, it kind of gets a little culty, and it's not a comfortable place to stay for long. But I do recommend that you go and listen to her lessons and take what you can from it. Definitely, because they are helpful, they are useful. The other thing I have an issue with her is most of her persona, most of her brand, most of what she does is very outgoing and helpful, and I can't think of the other word, but she's always trying to help people be their best selves and get over trauma and get over negative thinking and be good to themselves. But at the same time, she has traits of being a communal narcissist. So a communal narcissist is like pillar of the community, and they put forward like one face to the public, but then behind closed doors, they're a different way to their family, and they're actually like abusive. Ironically, on the day my mom died, she released a video. Mel Robbins, not my mom. On the day my mom died, Mel Robbins put out a video talking about her daughter's graduation. And she also released a blog post on, well, it was like an email on the email list. She released an email on it, talking about how the weekend of her daughter's high school graduation, she got really controlling, and she was trying to tell her daughter, like, what dress to wear, and she fought her daughter on what to wear, and was like, of course I won because I'm a lawyer. And I'm like, yeah, you know, and she's proud of that. And then she basically got so controlling and so upset and caused so much drama the whole weekend and all the parties and everything, that her daughter had this really horrible weekend, and they were fighting the whole time. And at the end of the weekend, Mel Robbins realized, oh, like I was kind of a jerk. I kind of screwed up. And so she gathered her family around because she was about to hop on a plane and was like, I'm so sorry. And she was crying. And then she said, it wasn't even a manipulative cry, you guys. And I'm like, that's not normal. Who manipulative cries, right? So you don't get points for that. And then she's like, but my family was just sort of silent and I couldn't understand why. And then, you know, my daughters were like, well, that's okay, Mom. And then like my son just gave me this look because I was like, it's not that bad, is it? And my son just kind of looked at me like, yeah, you were, you know, you always told me to tell the truth. Like, yeah, you were that bad. And she's just like, oh my God, you guys. And so like she went to her audience to get sympathy because she couldn't get it from her family. And I'm like, like, okay, this used to happen to me all the time when I was growing up. And like, so I actually left a comment about how, hey, that's not cool. But that was the day I kind of turned away from Mel Robbins because I was like, oh, I mean, she doesn't advertise herself as being perfect. She's always talking about how she's still learning this too, and she's not perfect. And so, yeah, I mean, on some level, I can totally forgive her for that. But there were so many behaviors in that and a subsequent video about, now I'm forgetting. There was a subsequent video that also had this in it, and it just was such a huge red flag for me. I was like, no, I need to stop. So I've taken the information that I can from her and I've learned from her, and I really appreciate that, but it's time for me to move on and to go to the next thing. So this vlog is the next thing for me. I kept applying to her, you know, she'll have like when she's doing the Take Control of Your Life, or she's doing a new book now, she'll have people send in videos saying like, what's your greatest fear? Or what's your biggest problem with, you know, your job or whatever. And I would send in these videos and it was always like, I'm afraid to be seen, I'm afraid to be seen. And I was hoping to be chosen. And it turns out that I really just needed to do the work myself. And I just needed to get my own goddamn camera and upload my own videos. That's the way to get over it. So yeah, I've moved past that now. But at the same time, she still has really good information to teach. So go go for the lessons, don't stay for the cult, you know? And just, you have to be that way with everything, right? If anyone has built up a cult of personality, like, beware. That's not a healthy place to be, as to following a cult of personality. It's just not. But that doesn't mean that those people don't have useful things to teach. So definitely go for the lessons, but don't stay for the cult. I think that's it. So I'm going to end this video, and I'm going to make another one because I have another topic I want to talk about today. So anyway, I probably won't upload them on the same day. I will be wearing the same shirt. That's okay. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye. Be good to each other, and I'll see you next time.